The session is being recorded, so should you have to skip out early, sometimes happens, you can always come back and watch. It will be provided for you a little later. In chat, I've put the link to the presentation. The presentation that's going to be provided by our speakers will be there a little later, plus the actual link to the recording will be dropped in at some point in the near future for you. Now, to getting in and getting started, I know we've got, a few more that'll still probably come in over time, but we're going to get into our, typical program. And if you have at any point questions, please drop them over into chat, or you can throw your hand up. If we're just not quite getting it, we can always unmute you if you need to be. We like to try and make it interactive wherever we can. You can either have your video on or not. I don't mind whichever way you want to go. Now, we shouldn't have admitting from the lobby. Let me just double check that, because generally we don't have the lobby on, but I've just received a message, which is unlike this meeting. Let me just go and double check to make sure. Everyone, let's just swap that over and save just in case. Okay. Hopefully now that should stop those messages popping up for everyone. You should all hopefully be able to see the screen kicking in and getting started. Is there anyone here that's actually new to the session? Just throw your hand up. It's up the top there, your little smiley face with a hand on it. If you're new, you'll often get a few new users to the session. It's always good to have you here. Welcome. At any point, there are reactions as well that you can do, which is great. So this is where you're going to find the link in the presentation. I've provided the link for you, and I'll do it again at the end just so that you've got it. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're actually meeting from today, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today. We do have a code of conduct. You'll actually be able to see it on the Microsoft site. We have one as well in regards to the user group. We always welcome questions and viewpoints. We ask that you be kind and understanding and be friendly and using the most appropriate of gifts along the way. And that way we're just a little bit more considerate of others. So my name is Kirsty, for those that are new. Everyone else, welcome back again. Lovely to see you here. This is what I've been up to over the last month. I know most of you know that I do sort of cake decorating. I've extended out. I've been doing some sugar work, so you can see my butterfly. It's really big. It's about yay. And I've been having some playing around with cookies and having a bit of fun. So that's what I've been up to over the last month. In Sydney, we've been back in lockdown again for a little over a week. We got another week to go, but we think we're going to be extended because unfortunately the cases are all a little on the low side. So that's what I've done in the last month, keeping me busy at home. Let's get stuck into what's new. Welcome, Alistair. Good to see you here. Hi. Waving to everyone. Okay, what's new? Oh, here we go. I think there's something like 27 pages. I know I try and limit it down. Eventually I got rid of a couple of pages. So let's get started. We're ready for the whirlwind. Strap into your seats. Here we go, as usual. What's new in Teams meeting and webinars? We've got the attendance dashboard now that's actually embedded in just a little bit more directly into the Teams UI for the reporting needs. Okay, so you will see that in there. We've got the lower all hands now. Now, some of these were rolling out maybe a little earlier in the year. They've now been updated to rolling out now. So we've got that lower all hands for the participants. Our chat bubbles, so as we're chatting, that'll be flowing through fairly soon to your tenant. So they will now, as people chat, will come up with little chat bubbles. You'll see it here over on the right-hand side. So I'll just do a little bit of a circle there so you can see where it is. So we've got our chat bubbles coming through. It's on by default. You can actually turn it off by doing don't show the chat bubbles. It's under more actions, by the way. Okay. When it comes to your mobile phone, there's now an updated large gallery view. So, we've seen it previously in other competitive products, whereas now when you've got lots of people in the call, you can start to then swipe across to see who's there. So you're not just limited to the one screen of attendees. I am particularly enjoying that new feature coming in. It is available iOS 13 and Androids, and they do have to have more than a 4 gig of RAM on it, okay? Any other sort of device or earlier versions as well, they're going to see the previous, large gallery experience. When it comes to now including that audio in sharing from your mobile phone, so if you're playing a video from your mobile, for example, now you can actually include that in, which is great. I mean, I particularly love that one. It's a feature that I've been waiting for. Allowing meetings to start recording automatically. Often we forget to press record on a meeting. I just double checked. It's like, yes, I did. I put it on 5 minutes early. You can, coming up in terms of the settings, it is being on the roadmap. It will be rolled out hopefully by the end of the month for most. So you can now have it record automatically when you go in. There might even be a few new features on here that you may not have seen before, such as like allow reactions and a couple other components there. Okay. In terms of the calling side of things, like I've just put in a page for you. I think that it's important to understand that there's way more than, I suppose, the communication collaboration side of what we often think about in Teams, but there's a lot more that's coming through in terms of the devices that you can actually use and what's going on in terms of the Surface Hub. What I particularly loved in this one was the new AI intelligent speakers that are there now. I think it's Echo and Link have got their, I double check, I should check the link before I go out there. They've got an awesome AI speaker now that will recognize who's speaking in the room even, which is great when it comes to transcript. Okay, so that's now the speakers in a room coming through. Go and have a look at some of those updates. I've put the links through there for you to have a look. In the chat and collaboration side, there's an approvals template. Now, this flow, I mean, it came through a little while ago, but there's a lot more that's flowing in now. Highly recommend go and have a look at this. I've just put in, a little video here. It's on pause. It doesn't want to play now for me today, of course. Anyway, it's showing that approval process. Okay. And why don't you want to play? Not today, it seems. That's okay. So those approval flow throughs you can do directly out of the box inside Teams. I'm loving it. You should be able to see this when you download the presentation. I've dropped all these videos in for you as well, by the way. Okay. Let's go back, jumping. There are, in terms of the approval tasks, templates were there. Accessing files offline now on the Android has flown through, and creating tasks from Teams. So one of my videos going to play today. I'm wondering, I might just hop out of the presentation temporarily, and I'll just go back in again and see if that will do it. Okay. And of course the display settings. Let me just bring it back up. Okay. And let's just see if it'll play now for you. Not today, it would seem. Okay. So creating some of those tasks, the great part is now in your messages in the right-hand side where you've got your ellipsis button, you can actually click on that. In the pop-out menu, there's more actions and you can just create a task directly from the message. Sometimes that will be, can you please follow up, or send through, or where is, for example. If you can't do it then and there, set up a task around it. That will certainly help you out a little bit more. I'm just going to collapse down some of these screens. It's playing up just a little. Here. Okay, give it a chance. It's a bit on go slow. So there's now the rich previews for SharePoint pages. So on those pages, you'll actually see that you can, pasting, when you paste those links in, it's been on there, like some might have seen it, it's been rolling out fairly quickly, but now it actually gives you this rich display card, depending on what it is now that you're pasting over, but most you'll see these awesome little cards coming up. Have I stopped sharing? No, I haven't. Let's just double check. My apologies. It seems to have been swapping and flicking screens around. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop and reshare. Main screen. Let's try that again. Some can still see, some can't. Okay, righto. Better. It's doing its own thing today. And it's funny, I've already been presenting this morning for Microsoft Reactor. I did an Outlook session not that long ago. It's recorded, by the way, if anyone wants to have a look at it. It's available under the Microsoft Reactor space. Yes, you can assign tasks to individuals. Okay. We've got locking the meeting now. So this means that when someone's trying to come into the meeting and maybe you're getting undesirables coming into the meeting or they have been kicked out of the meeting, you can then actually go and lock the meeting. So this is a feature that's actually coming soon, and it's on the roadmap if you want to actually have a look at it. Microsoft Whiteboard is actually a bit of a design change that's coming through in terms of the whiteboard and some of the integrations that's going on now into chats and channels. So that whole share experience is getting a little bit of an upgrade. So there's this sort of new modern look and feel over here on the right-hand side. It's got improved mouse inking and pen support, a bit of shape recognition, and the rainbow ink and all that sort of flowing through into the actual app. We had it on the Windows app on the desktop, but not necessarily always through Teams and other ways. The laser pointer and follow along, so you can actually see where people are as they move around. You get your little tag like you do in co-collaboration inside Word and PowerPoint. Now you can actually physically see the cursor moving around. Have a look at it. Really great. Some awesome stuff there, and templates too, by the way. What's new in Yammer? Now there's that customized branding, so that when you put it into Teams, you can actually customize sort of the app logo. Maybe you've got a different name for your sort of Yammer, and I know that there's a couple of organizations I've worked with that haven't actually specifically called it Yammer as part of their their community environment. So now you can adjust that. So I've put in some of the how-tos and docs there. The what's new in Yammer as well, there is a really awesome video that's actually been provided by some great MVPs and teams out there, Amy Dalzine and Melody Holtz, for example. What they've done is, some of the best ways and best practice. There's a video there, but it's also got a bit of a summarization there in the transcript of some of those really awesome top features. I highly recommend going and having a look around that Yammer component. No, just a bit of a talk up there. Will browser-based experience align better with the app experience? That is something I can't answer for you now. I know that there are some changes that are coming down the line, but it's building on it. It always is. Have a look on the roadmaps. Anything you're going to see that's been asked for will sit on the roadmap as well around the web experience, or any of them for that matter. Easily uploading OneDrive files from shared libraries in Yammer. So you've also got the ability to do the same kind of commenting and editing that you would do in OneDrive and SharePoint. So it's a bit of a richer experience. Embedding your Yammer feed, so you can do it, get a code to actually be able to do the embed feeds. We've talked a little bit about this, but now you can see some more information on it. New announcement delivery options for Yammer. So the little pop-up you'll see down the bottom here, you can actually notify members via email as well. That way it then will override individual community member email notifications. If they've got them turned off, what it does is it says, okay, I'm sending it to you anyway because it's something that's particularly important. Pin posts have been there now for a little bit, I think about since April, but now you've got collapsible pin posts, so they're not taking up the whole top of the feed, which I'm loving. What else we got? Moving forward, new in lists, the at comments. So you can at mention and it will actually flick through an email saying you've been at mentioned when it comes to lists. So that's awesome. In your breakout rooms, just a slight shift in a change in terms of the participant assignment. It's just moved over to just make it that little bit easier as a pop-out window for you. So if you do have content that you've created, things to take into consideration, it's coming soon. SharePoint have had, quite a few little, changes. What I've done is there's the roadmap pit stop, which is done by Internet Zone and Mark Cashman and the team. Awesome. My favorite has been more along the lines of in the admin center, some of the cards and the customization around the analytics that you can actually do. Keep an eye out on those analytics. That'll help you on your adoption journey. Collapsible sections. Of course, now the videos all want to work. They didn't want to work earlier, but I don't mind. When you create it, you can actually set it up with a collapsible section so that when someone's looking through the page, they can extend and collapse them down in terms of reading on their default page loading state. Coming soon into your OneDrive, down the bottom, you actually have all of this. There's going to be lots of little sort of incremental changes and features, things that are coming in the OneDrive and sharing experience. This is, one of the main ones that are flicking in, just so you can see who's actually you're shared with and what you're working on. In Outlook, the reply fastest to suggested, email. So when an email comes in, all these little kind of suggestions that are kind of up, you've got your auto responses. So things like, your quick auto responses up the top here, or maybe you need to attach a file. So I'll go based on, can you send it? It'll then look at suggested attachments. It's a whole AI kind of feature that's running in the back end. I'm loving it personally. Even things like, do you want to schedule a meeting, if that's the wording that's been putting in there. So it's taking notice in terms of that piece and the graph interface in the background, then surfacing the right documents. You can actually set up breakout rooms both before as well as after. So yes, you can. In terms of your breakout rooms. Your calendar board view. So there's, in terms of coming to the Outlook, this is in your web online. So you'll see a new feature that's going to be there, which is the board look and feel. So it's going to have lots of other little features that you're going to see there in terms of tasks online. And now with the recipient changing in terms of how many meeting attendees being a 750 limit, now, if you try and add more than that in Outlook, it's actually going to give you an error message. Okay, so it'll reduce then the number of recipients and make sure that it's, a little safer in terms of that invite going out. On your mobile phone, now, this is information that's come through, and they've had it in the US for a while. We're only really starting to see it on certain devices here, and in Australia, it's now rolling out. I'm particularly loving, especially when you're on the go, it's all part of Cortana and being able to read your emails, for example. You can set it up where it will automatically do it for you at a particular time each day, so it will remind you with a little play button running along the bottom, or you can actually go into your name account settings. You can press then the record button underneath your accounts, and it'll say however many emails, and you can swipe through those as well. I am particularly, loving that new feature, and it's great because if you're in your car, it will, help you to read out mail for you, that sort of thing. Gave it a go yesterday. The pronunciations was pretty good. Awesome. Like to hear it. I know I've been using it, and sometimes there's something interesting, but generally it's pretty spot on. I'm also loving it. Some of the events that are actually happening, and look, there are heaps throughout the the year. I've got those that are kind of important to us. There are a couple of change management ones I were to go and have a look at too if you want to search online. But Inspire is coming up next week, especially around those that are in that partner space if you're on the call. There's the SharePoint Fest in Chicago. There's on-demand, workshops, which we've discussed previously when we had Andrea Lum on the call presenting lists last month. The month before, I'm losing track of my months, last month. So she did put that up. I'll just put that back in here for you. DEX, that's a digital employee experience. Usually we'd have that, locally, either Sydney or Melbourne. Usually it's kind of Sydney. Awesome conference that I love going to and have presented in the past. It's going to be virtual this year. It is coming up in September, by the way. There's recently been an Envision event that's been run, a 4-part series. They're actually there in recordings. Highly recommend go and have a look. It's very much focused around kind of the hybrid work and what we're looking at in our current environment. Some really good information in there for you. As always, there's the Ignite information. I keep it in there for you because a lot of what we're showing has been put into the book of news, but every now and again there's something new that flows in. And I know I've gone just a little over. Sorry, we had a bit to do. I have some awesome speakers, and hopefully everyone is on the line. We'll soon see. I'll go and have a look. There we go. Michael is here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up the presentation. They're going to provide an overview of the new modern commenting experience in Office. They want to share with you the roadmap for some of the future improvements, some of the design that they're looking at, and the capabilities. And we want it to be interactive because we actually want to learn also from you, what you think about it, how you're using comments, because the team would love to have some of that feedback from you around the experience. It will help in terms of some of the design stuff as well. So we've got on the call Michael, who's the Word Program Manager. So he's going to be facilitating, and I will let him introduce some of the others as they come and go, or if it's just him, I'll let you take over. So I will stop sharing. Handing over to you, Michael. Hang on, you're on a mute, so we'll just have to add the spotlight and get you off mute.
Okay.
Hey,
folks,
Theo, welcome.
Can folks see and hear me all right?
Exit spotlight, me. And hand over.
Can hear you.
Spotlight him. And are you ready, Michael? We can't hear you.
Yep. Can you hear me now? Is it fine?
I can hear you fine.
Still can't hear you.
It's only Kirsty that can't hear you.
Can anyone hear?
Yes.
It seems like it's fine.
Okay, it's just me.
Yes, I think it's just delayed.
So look, I'm going to get started, but folks, please use the chat and let us know if there are any issues that you're experiencing, or if you actually can't hear or see my screen. It seems like folks in the chat can hear fine. So, firstly, just thank you everyone for joining us today. We're super excited to share a little bit more about modern comments in the Office apps and the evolution of the commenting features and experiences in Office with you all today. As Kirsty mentioned, we also want to get your feedback, both on the current experience as well as on some of the proposed changes and improvements we're looking at making to the product and to the commenting feature set. And then we also want to hear a bit about yourselves, if possible, both sort of who you are, what you do, or what your role in company is, and then ask any and all questions that you might have about these experiences in the chat. And we've got a couple of other folks on the call. I know that Alan, who's program manager for PowerPoint, is on the call as well, as is Scott McFadden, who is Excel program manager, and Theo, I think, is also on the call, who represents much of the shared components that we use across comments in Office. So between the four of us, we should have most of your questions covered, and super excited to share a little bit more and learn from you today. And please use the chat function to share, who you are and what role and company you're representing today, or say hi or send any message to the team. That kind of information is super helpful for us. Okay, so just a quick recap of what we're going to talk about. We're going to give an overview of the commenting experience in Office, which we are in the process, which we have rolled out for some applications already to 100% of subscription customers, and are in the process of rolling out for the Word app and some other app and PowerPoint as well. We're going to understand a little bit more from you about how your organizations use commenting tools in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And so there's going to be a couple of sections where we're going to ask you some questions, and please just type in your thoughts in the chat. And then we're also going to share some of the improvements that we're exploring with you for your feedback. Okay, so with that, let's transition into, I'm just going to minimize this window here. Let's transition into a quick overview of the commenting experience. So broadly, we've made a couple of updates to comments, a couple of major updates to comments in the Office apps, centered around a couple different pillars of value. First of which is we really want to make sure that we're able to get to a place where commenting is much more consistent and coherent across all of your Office application interactions. This has not always been the case in the past, with different applications supporting different sets of functionality. And additionally, wanted to modernize the whole experience and bring it a little bit more into alignment with the rest of the Office application experiences. And so to that end, you'll notice that comments have a very different visual treatment. They support a lot of different interactions. And they also behave, look, and feel very consistently across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. That's the first sort of pillar here. The second one is we want to make sure that users have a little bit more control and confidence over the kinds of comments that others can see. And when you post your comment or understanding how you can have more confidence in knowing when your comment is shared and visible for other people. Some of the feedback we've heard in the past is it's been unclear to folks when a comment has been committed, because the historic model used to not have this post or share button. And so when the comment was typed up, it sort of at some point implicitly became a part of the document. It wasn't clear when that would be shared or visible to others. And that was a source of pain and concern for a lot of customers. And so we've added a post share button to the new commenting experiences so that users have more control over when they can actually post their comments. You can also use Control Enter or Command Enter on a Mac to use a quick keyboard shortcut to trigger that as well. And then the third thing is making it easier to center collaboration experiences around commenting workflows. With the modern comment features today, users can @mention other people in their organizations. These trigger notifications that can be received via email. Users can respond to those comments from the email without having to go back to the document and try to find and figure out what comment they were mentioned in and go and search for that. So you can respond to comments directly from the email that you've been mentioned in. And you can also more easily find comments that are assigned to you or that you are the target of questions in your documents. And the @mention experience unlocks a lot of other value down the road, things like being able to bring the tasks ecosystem that you're familiar with into the Office applications more cleanly as well, and things of that nature. So these are some of the sort of central pillars of value around which modern comments were designed for. Some of the other things that you now get with this functionality are the ability to have a better, cleaner experience that allows you to focus on the comments that are important for you in the context that matters, and have less distraction from comments that aren't as critical for your workflow or focus while you're working on the document in an active state. An example of this is represented in the screens below, with what we are calling the contextual comments and the comments pane, kind of a classic pane-based experience, both visualized here. And so what you can see in these screenshots, which are admittedly somewhat small, I apologize for that, is comments in a contextual view on the left, where comments that are active or are in process and in the process of resolving or communicating or having conversations around are visible on the screen right next to your content, clearly associated with content that matters. But comments that have been resolved or deleted are not part of this view anymore. So it simplifies and drives focus towards the items that need to be acted on. You can see, however, that if you want to see comments that have been resolved, these comments still remain as a part of the document, and you can now go into the comments pane, open that up, and you can see.
Michael, let me jump in real quick here. It sounds like there's maybe a presentation issue. They're still seeing the agenda slide. It looks like for other users, it hasn't advanced yet to the focus slide. And there we go.
This work better for anyone else? Can you see now the modern comments slide that talks about consistency, control, and confidence and @mentions? Yes.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Some folks are still having trouble. Oh dear. This seems like quite a lot of folks are having trouble. I don't know why this would be a problem. Let me stop sharing. And I'm going to share again and see if we can resolve this. Oh, okay. Let's see. Try this one more time. Yes, they could review it in the recording later, but there seem to be quite a lot of folks who couldn't see. So I do want to make sure that we try at least one thing before we rely on that. I'm sharing my screen again. Jenny, I see your question about comments being sent to Teams rather than email. It's a really interesting point, and it is one that we've been hearing quite a lot about. If you wouldn't mind sharing some detail in the chat about why specifically that particular workflow is important, or whether you'd like options for users to be able to control where comment notifications go, that would be super helpful. I've shared my screen again. Can folks see the modern comment slide any better now, or? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, looks like we're fixed. Great, sorry about that. So this was the slide I was mentioning: consistent experience, control when others can see your comments. You can see in this just below that there is a share post button now, and then you can see that users are able to be @mentioned now in comments, which trigger those email notifications that we've mentioned. Moving on to the next slide. This is a slide that shows the comments in the contextual view right next to the document canvas. On the left, there's a screenshot of that where you're only seeing active comments and conversations. And on the right, you can see a screenshot that shows the comments pane open up. This allows users to see both all of the active conversations and comments, as well as anything that has been resolved and closed out of the contextual view, but is still available for users to reactivate or to interact with from the comments pane. Okay, I'm going to move over to the third slide here. And let's talk a little bit about availability of modern comments across the core Office apps. So for Word on the web, it's been available to 100% of production customers for quite a while. We are currently rolling this out to our current channel subscription customers, to production, and we are at Insider Slow for Word on Mac. Excel for the web is also at production and has been at 100% production for a while. Likewise, it's also at 100% production for current channel and semi-annual channel. And
Michael,
then it's also,
you could just explain what production actually means for those that might not be. Yep.
General availability for all customers who have subscription versions of Office across the world.
Thank you. I know that there might not, us MVPs and those that might do it, but there might be a lot here that might not be sure of some of the wording or acronyms.
Yeah. For those who aren't aware, we do, obviously, as you likely might know, we stage our release of new features and functionality to make sure that they're well tested and that we are able to quite quickly and efficiently address any issues before rolling out to 100% of our customers across the world. And so this just gives you a sense for how available the modern comments feature is. And so for customers using the applications online, all of Word, Excel, both Word and Excel have this new feature available now by default for everyone. It is off by default for PowerPoint across all of Web, Windows, and Mac, but it is available for Excel on Windows and Mac, and it is in the process of rolling out slowly for Windows and Mac for Word. If folks have used these experiences in Word, Excel, PowerPoint yet and have any thoughts about top of mind thoughts or highlights that you'd like to share in the chat, please do so. We're going to have a chance to go through in the next sections questions about how you're using commenting in your organizations, if you have anything you'd like to share, after which we'll share some next improvements and explorations that we're looking at for your feedback. Okay. So, and feel free to continue to add those comments while we move through the next section. We can always circle back to any questions that you might have. The focus now, we'd love to get your feedback on how you're using commenting, whether it's existing legacy comments in the Office apps or the modern commenting feature. We just want to better understand how your organization uses comments so that we can make sure that these experiences really are working as well for you as they can be. So as we think about the Word product, we'd love to understand how often your organizations use comments in Word, what some of the key document workflows where comments are important might be, and any challenges that you have with commenting today. So if folks wouldn't mind taking a minute or two to just type up any quick thoughts there in the chat, that would be super appreciated. And I'm going to keep an eye on the chat as well while we wait. Okay, I'm also going to ask a couple of other questions here. Firstly, how has the use of comments evolved for you as work has changed? Obviously, we've all been going through a pandemic over the past more than a year now. And even before that point, we've seen work evolving. We've seen teams and organizations embrace more diverse collaborative workflows. As these workflows have changed, has the way that comments are used in your organizations changed? Has the way that collaboration workflows centered around your documents, have they changed? And how does comments fit into that for your organization? Additionally, has anyone tried the commenting experience in Google Docs? And what are your thoughts to that end? We'd love to know if there are experiences out there that you really like, that you dislike, or that you're used to. Let me take a quick look at the chat here. Okay. Let's move on to, oh, he has a couple comments that just came in.
We did
Yes.
Comments there. So Kareem said that they provide documentation to customers via Teams / SharePoint, and they review it using comments and get notified by email automatically when a comment is made. I think there's a few more coming through as well.
Great. Yeah, I see that. Okay, thanks, Kareem. That's a great example.
Kirsty and Melinda have some good discussion here. Kirsty said, I've seen too many documents flying around that aren't, whoops, it jumped for me, aren't in state and comments haven't been removed. Is there a possible warning system that could be integrated into Outlook or Windows, etc., that would help people to finalize comments? And Melinda agreed. Don't understand why our notifications are sent to email when we want to use email lists. Great feedback there.
Yeah. No, Kirsty, that's a great suggestion about warning systems to help people finalize comments. You can obviously do this already in the Office applications today by cleaning up your document before you send it out to someone, but we don't today notify anyone proactively of comments existing in the document before they share it out. And I think there is definitely work we could do to make those experiences a little bit more intelligent and intent-driven. It seems like there's a bit of debate on the thread about where Teams and email sits with notification value and functionality. If folks think that that it would be useful to have a switch or a toggle or an end user controlled or an admin controlled state to manage where comment notifications go, please share any thoughts you might have about that in the chat as well, or otherwise how you would in your organization want to control or manage where or how comment notifications are shared. Also note that I saw a couple comments here about folks trying to handle quickly answer questions about comments or resolve or act on comments for some review workflows. If people are using or have used the reply to comment features in your email when you receive a document, let us know if how that experience has worked for you, and if you have any challenges with it, or if there's anything you really like about it. Obviously, that's one of the major value adds that come with modern comments, is that ability to respond to see a preview of the comment in the email directly with the notification, and then to act on and reply to it directly there, which pipes back into the document and into that comment without the user having to open the document and add the reply there. So if you have thoughts on that functionality or changes you'd like to see, that would be super helpful as well. Alan, anything else that we should discuss quickly before we move on to learning a little bit more about comments in PowerPoint and Excel?
Yeah, there's a couple of comments, but let's go with a hand up. I think Kirsty has her hand up, so let's get to her.
Yeah. Hi, in dealing with the hundreds and thousands of clients that I tend to do and with training, one of the big ones is that historical comments. A lot of people are then going, I need to do it as tracking and have it written in so that I've got a historical, kind of information, or I keep the document and I have to save it as something new because I've got no way historically to go, well, who's made what comment, when did they do it, and be able to keep it and have it for later. So we see a little bit going on around that and what that actually might look like for you guys as a team as well.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. It is definitely something that we've thought about a good deal, is not just for comments, but for things like track changes as well. How do you establish a better, richer audit history or history of these changes or comments that get accepted and built into the document workflow, with some way to know who accepted or approved these things or added them into the document, which today, when the document is finalized, if you go and remove all the comments and clean the document up, that information is all lost. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Kirsty?
Kirsty, you're on mute.
It's always the way, isn't it? Yeah, I see it a lot, especially with some of the gov and compliance and about transparency and a few other things. So it's becoming more and more prevalent and becoming a real issue for a lot of organizations.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's super helpful. Thanks for that feedback. I'm going to go over, since we still have a bit to go through, I'm going to kind of go through PowerPoint now and Excel first. So the next question for folks on the call is, how do you use comments in Excel? What are some of the key spreadsheet workflows where comments are important? How do you use comments differently from notes? Do you use them together? Obviously, Excel is different from Word in that respect, as both comments and notes are supported. Unlike Word, which did support replies and some form of conversational sort of functionality and workflows in the old version of comments, Excel did not. And so now Excel does have reply functionality with comments. It also has these notes, the notes feature. How do you use these different sets of capabilities? Do you have any challenges with Excel in the way that you might use commenting workflows? Please feel free to share anything in the chat. We'll give it a minute and then we'll move over. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say David has a interesting scenario where he posts the methodology he uses for his calculations and the comments for a specific cell. That's a good use case.
Right, David. When you share those Excel sheets out, maybe you do or maybe you don't. Would you remove the comment? Would you want to remove the comments from the document before you do that, or is it important then that you keep that history and that methodology in the
It's actually important, because then it can sort of justify how we've got a certain figure, and otherwise I'd have to put it in cells underneath as sort of an obvious methodology for what's caused an assumption that maybe we've had to make in the calculation. So it's really handy to have it as just a hover box. So it almost works like that Tableau idea as well, where you can just hover over and get extra info, which is useful.
And have you considered using notes for that kind of functionality?
We have in the past, but we found that the comments are better because it's on the individual cell. So people tend to notice the comment little triangle on the corner of the cell more so than the notes.
Yeah. So here's Scott from the Excel team, and one of the things that's quite different now with Excel is we've always had what we called comments for Excel. You'd recognize them as the little yellow sticky looking comment, and then we introduced the threaded comments about 2 years ago, and we renamed the old comments to notes, which created quite a bit of confusion, and we do apologize for that. We're trying to fix that now, but the goal for us is to allow you to do both, to choose to have that note, which David, I think you probably use because you have the ability to show the yellow sticky, use it as instructions or as information without the goal of communicating with other users. And then we have threaded comments, which is more about, do you want to start a conversation? Do you want to notify somebody, tap them and let them know that we need to have a conversation about this versus just posting a message.
Sometimes I find the yellow sticky note can also obscure some of the cell information at times as well. So that's the other reason we like the comment feature.
Awesome. Good. Thank you so much. And Kirsty's got her hand up now.
I'll go for it, Kirsty.
I often will get asked that why doesn't Excel and PowerPoint highlight what it is that you might have selected to comment? It's the whole cell, or it's just in a position inside PowerPoint on, on the box, for example. But unlike Word will actually highlight and go, that's what I chose to do the comment about. You're not getting that inside. It's the whole cell, for example, in Excel. And they're kind of going, but I want to just highlight these 3 words inside a cell. And that's what I want to comment about because I've got a lot of content in potentially a cell, not just, or a long formula, for example. And then I have to try and explain it all in the comments because I can't choose something in particular.
That's Kirsty. That's really, really great feedback. I think this is more of a legacy issue for Excel than anything else, where it's always been just the cell base. It's never been down to the text-based level of commenting. We also only support 1 comment or note per cell, which we question if that's something that's impacting users. It sounds like in your scenario, if users want to highlight a section or a set of words, they may also want to highlight another set of words within that same cell and have different conversations.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
Yeah, they cannot. And that's really good feedback. I will definitely take that back to our team because we're evaluating right now I guess the user scenarios for having multiple comments or notes per cell, or even to the text level versus to the cell level.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Fantastic. That was really good discussion. Okay, let's move on to PowerPoint. Same kind of questions. How often do folks in your organizations use comments in PowerPoint? Do you have any key slide deck workflows where comments are important that you want to share? Are there any challenges to working with comments in PowerPoint? It sounds like, the same comment around not being able to focus a comment on specific text ranges in a PowerPoint object might be one of the comments that folks would have. Is there anything else or any other nuances to that you'd like to share? And again, as mentioned, for PowerPoint today, you will currently most likely be using the legacy commenting experiences, as the modern comments feature in PowerPoint requires your admins to opt your organization into the new feature sets at the moment. So it may be that you, if you have in your organization noticed that commenting features look and feel still quite different between any of these applications, that's also very interesting to share, as it helps give a picture of sort of how coherent are we today for your organizations, or is there still a lot of mixed functionality going on in the wild as we're still going through this rollout. Okay, I see a comment from David about how speaker notes are often used for commenting more than the comments feature, as Jenny also indicates. Yeah, David, can you speak to that a little bit more? Why? Or Jenny, I suppose.
For me, often it's just that we just need to say who's maybe handling that slide, what they want involved, and then we can put a little agenda in. And because the speaker notes often aren't shared on the actual PowerPoint presentation, we use them for town halls, which in Teams live event, you don't get the speaker notes anyway. So we tend to use it as just an easy box that you can have up instead.
Right. Do you, sounds like you have assignments dictated from the speaker notes. Do different people have multiple assignees? Is there work for multiple assignees per slide? And how do you sort of guide users' attention to the work that they need to do from the speaker notes? Do you use formatting or any other sort of mechanism to call out what work needs to be done and by whom?
Usually we send an email out attached with the slide deck just saying who the agenda is, who's responsible for each slide, and then the EAs between us, we sort of use that as our other feed to actually make sure we have anything. Other advantages when we're running the town hall, we actually have the presenter box up, so we can actually say if there's a video or something else that we need to be aware of, we flag it in the speaker notes.
Got it. Okay, great.
So I can just speak to that also, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
We have a team of people that might prepare the slide decks and then different individuals who'll end up presenting it. So we'll have some rationale as to why we've included a slide and in whatever particular use case. That will probably stay with the slide deck and be removed if it does get handed over to clients, but mostly it's about rationale.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about some of the planned improvements based on the feedback as we've been rolling these features out. Let's talk, and we can talk a little bit specifically about Word for now. As we've been going through the Word rollout, we have noticed some features that users are looking for that they don't currently see in the app. And so here are a couple that we're going to be making updates to very, very shortly. First of which is, obviously, we've introduced the share button for comments now. We have heard some feedback that folks feel like it can be more difficult to commit a comment because it used to be once you typed it, it was there. So we're adding some tips to help make it easier for users to understand how they can quickly accomplish these tasks with keyboard shortcuts for now. If you have any feedback about any of these improvements, whether they will work for you, whether they won't, please share that in the comments in the chat as well. We also have heard from some folks that it used to be easier to edit a comment than it is today. This screenshot over the top right here shows a quick edit button that we're going to be adding back to the comment card so that you can quickly click on that pencil icon and immediately get into an editing mode for the comment. One note that I want to call out with the new comment features is they can only be edited by the authors of the comment. And this is something that if editing other individuals' comments is something that you do a lot in your organization or want the ability to do, please let us know about that in the chat as well. But currently the modern comments feature limits editing to those who've authored those comments. And then another example of something that we're making changes to is heard that it can be difficult to see the highlights associated with a comment now, as we or understand, I should say, where a comment is relative to the text on the page. The old comment features used to have connecting lines between your comment and the text that it was anchored to on the canvas, which is no longer available in the modern comment feature. So instead, we're doing a bunch of work to make it easier to see in clear highlighting what content is selected associated with a particular comment on the canvas. There still aren't any lines, but hopefully these highlight improvements make it easier to see the content that's relevant to a particular comment. And then additionally, we'll be bringing features like autocorrect back to your comments, the ability to both see and set font colors more accurately and more easily in comments. Images will render and be supported in comments again. It's easier to select content, and then multiple different comments can be swapped between so that you can reference one comment when you're editing another. And then additionally, we've heard that with the modern comments feature, if users have track changes enabled as well in a document, it can now set up a situation where there are two separate vertical sets of real estate taken up, one for track changes and one for comments, which separates them out. As a mitigation in the short term to make it easier for customers to not have that extra real estate taken up, we're going to be making it easier for folks to understand and to show use the show revisions inline feature and track changes to avoid that double gutter sort of experience that some folks might be hitting today. Let's take a quick look at the chat. Is there anything worth calling out, Ellen, at this point?
Yeah, there's been two main themes, really good thoughts and ideas around being able to remove all comments before you send a document to external partners or collaborators or what have you, and also an idea to have some sort of delegation. So I know an individual can only edit their own comments, but it might be useful in some cases, i.e. a EA editing their VP's comments in a document. So that's been a good conversation in the chat.
Yeah, that's a super great. Thank you for sharing such a specific example. That's very, very helpful for us as we think about these things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
I have a real quick question about this. Is something I'm interested in. As far as the removing of the comments before you share it, is the intent that you simply don't want others to see the history of what's been happening within the document, and you want to basically obfuscate the comments, or do you want to totally delete them from your?
I don't want them
file.
deleted, Scott. It's just obfuscate. You know, it's literally just, we're going to send through this document. We don't want them to see the comments. We're going to have it where it looks as is. But what happens is they're often sending a link out to an external party, and they're kind of going, oh, we don't want to see what the chats we've been having about that particular party in the comments. So they're then going, let's save it as a whole new document if they've remembered that there's commenting in there, because I've seen docs go out doing exactly that. So they then save it as a whole new document to send out. And they're sending it in a link to edit, for example, with their comments. Now we've got 2 documents with comments, and we've got changes going on, tracking changes across 2 comments that they then, someone's starting to cut and paste, and look, it just gets an absolute mess. And I've seen it happen many times. And then they kind of go, is there a way that we can share it out? Because some of the problems comes with kind of linking, sending links, and it was the same there in documents, but, you know, it takes it to a bit of a new level, I suppose, of being able to share a document and go, do you want to include? And that tick on, tick off as part of a sharing experience with OneDrive and SharePoint, which I know gets a lot more complex in terms of teams to be including in that. And when or don't you, or how do you, you know, I'm not sure what that looks like, but it has come up.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. One of the things we've heard before is that what you just explained, I don't want them to see the sausage being made. It's not important, but it still is important that those comments exist for others historically at a later date, potentially. So removing them from the file may not be the perfect intent, but it's the only way you can get around it if you remember to. So it's a great piece of feedback, and thank you for sharing that.
Okay, that's exactly right, Theo, as well. You've got the desire to warn you. That was that whole warning piece, that the moment you go to do a linking or attachment or a something, it's where's the, you know, a potential warning or something to sort of say, at what point is it we want to go back and delete them all out and keep it as a history, or, you know, what does that look like? Because I've seen a lot of people get into a lot of trouble from a legal perspective over things like this.
Yeah. And we've heard about this, at least for Word. I hear about this often in the legal scenarios where, you know, folks are talking about making changes on a document, and they don't want the counterparty to see how they've arrived at the decisions they've arrived at. And they want, or they may want the firm's position to be represented as a single statement or a single position, rather than to see the debate that goes on behind the scenes. And so we definitely hear about those scenarios a lot. If there are other scenarios that are specific that folks want to call out as examples of, you know, places where these kinds of sausage being made discussions aren't desired to be shared or visible for counterparties or others, please put that in the chat as well.
Just one section for that, where I think HR is another massive issue. So with SharePoint being shared out for individuals, sometimes you don't want some people with permission levels to see certain comments from a HR point of view. That's the other area as well I'd call out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. We have a couple of slides here that have some areas of exploration we're looking at. As we only have a few minutes left, I'm going to show the slides and give a quick overview, and then ask you to add your chat to the comments afterwards or as I go through it. So the first is the ability to focus and filter comments. You know, we know that people can add a ton of comments into the document, that they can exist in different states. And even though we have the contextual and the comment pane, that makes it easier to see only certain types of comments, we do also hear from users that they want more control over filtering and focusing on certain comment types. And so we'd love to understand how valuable it would be and what the most important types of comments to focus on would be for your organizations. Showing comments that only have mentions, for instance, that are only active or resolved. Whether, you know, showing comments by specific people, showing comments that have certain kinds of other properties that might be important to you. If you have any thoughts about this, please let us know. Another example of something that we're exploring is comment reactions, specifically likes as a basic example, how important this would be or useful to your organization as well. And then the third bucket of stuff, I suppose, is different levels of formatting support and comments. Bold, italicized, underline, strike through, highlighting, font colors and sizes and typefaces, bulleted or numbered lists, images, smart art, any of these kinds of what we might consider fairly basic formatting constructs. Are these critical to your workflows for comments today? Is there anything that you wish you didn't, that users couldn't put into comments because it makes things more difficult for you? Does it change across Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, these formatting needs? Please let us know about that as well. And then additionally, richer content, things like video comments or voice memos, GIFs, or even ink comments. Are these useful for your commenting workflows? Will these add or unblock new scenarios that you aren't currently able to work through effectively? And are there applications, Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, for instance, that these things will be more useful in? That's the end of our time today. I think we pretty much hit it right on the hour. So if you do have any questions, again, please feel free to add them into the chat. We will be sharing a link to this presentation with everyone after the talk. And there are a couple links to support content articles for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint in there, as well as a support link for IT admins to better understand how to roll out and deploy the commenting features across Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as well. She asked me to go back to the previous page, which I think is this rich content and comments. David asked for comments that are tasks. Yep. It is definitely on the roadmap as well. Some of you might have used tasks already across the online applications and obviously in Teams. Eventually, these will make their way into the desktop applications as well as a richer ecosystem support for tasks. Right now, there isn't as much coherence and continuity across where tasks sync across all of the different places you can input them, and that's something that we're working on. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Michael. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to type them in. That's great. Yeah, who would have known that you can actually get so excited by tasks? I know when I was working with the team at I think it was the MVP summit, I was kind of going, there's some cool stuff I hadn't really thought about, and so I did particularly I love some of that. Now I'm just going to present my screen to finalize off the session. For those, I know we've gone over a little for some, but that's okay. I've been playing around with some of the commenting and stuff. All the standard stuff, your resource links that are actually available for you, where you can find and where I find a lot of the latest information. For example, these are the links for you. It's in the deck that I've got there. Now it's just dropped off presenting. Let me bring it back up again. Try that again. Okay. And where you're going to find the links back into the user group. What's next? We generally meet on the first Tuesday of the month. So the next one will be the 3rd of August. So looking forward to that one. We have, potentially, sorry, there wasn't a lot of notice in regards to this particular session, but it is there recorded and we can always come back. Any thoughts or comments on the session? If not, until next time, I appreciate you all joining in. We still have, a couple of comments. The printing of comments is good. Love to understand more. So Theo, yes, that was my comment around printing. It's I have people sort of say to me that I want to print and just include, and where's the little tick box to just include comments or just include tracking, or you've got the drop down, but people aren't looking at some of those drop downs. Comments is probably one of those ones that they're finding a little harder to print. They go, I printed the document and it hasn't included it. I generally say don't print it then, maybe. Do you need to print? But sometimes it'll even be send it to OneNote and have it there so they can draw all over it, for example. So there's a couple of different sort of scenarios on that one that I get. Any other questions there? So the slide deck, I'll give you the link. Let me go back to the presentations. I'll go discard. July, and it dropped off. Oh, it's the wrong presentation. Hang on, let me come back over. I'll put the link again into chat for you. So the presentation is available for you. The recording I will put in very shortly. It's rather big. So that will flow through and you'll be able to go back and review anything at a later date. Any other questions? Anything that needs to be answered there, Theo or Michael?
Just a quick comment. We should have the presentation we shared available for everyone by tomorrow, thereabouts. So if you check back to this presentation and it should get in there shortly.
Same with the recording. So what I'll do is I will be putting a message in the chat and I put it all up online as well across my Twitter and LinkedIn, for example. So if you're following me, you'll see it come up, and I will make sure it's all included and the links are all live. So if you've got the link, just come back and double check it. Tomorrow I'll give you that notification. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for my speakers. It's been wonderful to have you come on and help us to understand a little bit more around the direction, and I look forward to connecting more, or if you need to connect back in the community again. All right, I will stop recording.